Now that I have some of the clouds painted in, just to give me reference of their general placement in the painting, now I'm going to draw some attention to the land and the foreground elements in the water. It's important in painting to build up the painting from general information to specific information. To put that another way, that whether you're 5 minutes into the painting or 2 hours into a painting, the whole painting should be at the same level of completion as any other area of the painting. So I don't want to get too completed in the skies before moving on to those land elements. When we put that emphasis on shape and color relationships, everything in the painting relates to what's around it. And it's important to build the painting up bit by bit rather than completing one area before moving on to another. The whole painting will feel more like a unified whole if we build it up a little bit at a time, moving from one area to another. Notice I'm trying to do as much mixing as possible with my palette knife rather than my brush. That just keeps my colors out of the tube a little bit cleaner, a little easier for all my subsequent color mixing. It also helps me to pick up and lay back down a mixed color on the palette with the knife so I can lift up a good quantity of color and apply it with my brush. All those little mechanics around color mixing on the palette is just in service of the painting. You know, it really does make a difference. And notice I use basically all areas of my brush. I'm using the tip of the brush for some finer marks. And I might turn it sideways and use the edge of the brush. Might add some more water to the paint to create a wetter mark. Use dry or straight paint out of the tube for a drier mark. All of that versatility really helps create visual interest in the painting as I'm diversifying the way that the paint is applied onto the painting. Again, I want to keep moving from one area of the painting to another throughout the painting process. So if I've first started by working the clouds, I want to move fairly quickly into the land and water. Once I have that established to about the same level of completion, I'm going to work back into those clouds. So the whole painting creates a unified whole. If I focus on one area for too long before moving into a different area of the painting, then it's going to be can be a bit more disjointed visually. I want to keep moving back and forth. Using a bit of the ultramarine blue, the phthalo green to create a strong kind of sky blue to push through those clouds and create some sky holes. Again, varies the visual interest in the painting, breaks up the kind of dominance of grays up there to just bring in some nice high chroma blues to describe those areas of blue sky poking through. Also a good way to visually connect one area of the painting to another and let that be kind of a compositional device to move us throughout the painting. Connect what's happening on the left-hand side with the right-hand side of the painting, but also from top to bottom as I work in a couple of the reflections of those sky holes down into the bottom of the painting. So just like the dark gray of the sky in the shadowed areas of the clouds take on a cooler blue and violet hue, I want the highlights to incorporate some color as well. So I want to avoid using just straight white out of the tube. Keep in mind that all hue families, yellow, orange, red, violet, blue, and green, can exist at light values. So the light values that I apply for those highlights might have a kind of a slight orange or pink bias to them, which will relate to the rest of the painting in a better way than just using straight white from the tube. Essentially what I'm doing here is broadening the value range of my painting. I've incorporated some fairly dark darks in the early stages of the painting, and now I'm working towards the other end of the value scale by accentuating some highlights. Painting clouds is a really great exercise in exploring edges, soft edges in some areas, hard edges in others. So one of the challenging aspects of working with a fast drying medium like casein is that because of the fast nature of how the paint sets up, I don't quite have the diversity of those edges as easily to manipulate with the paint as I do in oils, where that longer drying time really gives me the opportunity to adjust that hard or soft edge making in oils. So manipulating the paint that's applied with a wet brush, kind of physically kind of scrubbing in with the paint is a good way to diversify those edges. I've been using, for the most part, a synthetic brush that is really good for either oils, acrylics, or casein. But sometimes it's good to just go in with like a stiff oil painting bristle brush too. And that just, again, allows me to be a bit more physical by manipulating the paint and kind of scrubbing at it on the painting, and a good way to alter the quality of those edges on the painting itself. Casein can also be applied with palette knives. So if you want to create a nice hard saturated mark, that can be done by applying the paint directly with a knife as well. Again, just to give a little bit more texture variation to the painting. And as in life, the greater the variation and the diversity, the more interesting things are. Also a good way at the edge of the knife to create some nice hard edged lines, especially if I want to carve in a bit of a dark value that's right up against that shoreline, or kind of the implied horizon line in the painting. Another way to think about that is to, no matter what we're painting, whether it's a wetland scene, a cloud scene, more arid climates like the Southwest, that the texture, the optical texture and of our paint applications can marry the optical texture of the thing that we're looking at. So in addition to thinking about the landscape as a series of shapes, considering those kind of optical or visual texture qualities of them as well. Do they have more of a smooth texture? Are they a bit of a rougher texture? How can we describe those textural variations through the application of paint? I like that idea that what we paint is no different than how we paint it.